from a maintenance for sewer maintenance. It gets to be a system, that's between 60 and 70 miles of collection system. That's just too much for a 2-man crew to handle and maintain. When you look at making sure the pipes flow properly, and then we have 6 lift stations in town that we need to make sure that they operate efficiently and do their job. It could certainly lead to a catastrophic failure where we have residents in certain locations of our town that cannot flush the toilet.
And I think what I was going to say is there's 2 things. There's growth related, and then there's the maintenance issue. Doing nothing, eventually the maintenance issue, you end up doing something because you have to eventually fix these pipes. You have to replace these pipes. And it's actually way more expensive to do it in the catastrophic style, waiting for failures, than it is to proactively replace your pipes. The second thing that I was going to bring up is that you do collect impact fees. Mm-hmm. And there are impact fee monies that are being collected, and some of these projects that we've listed would be eligible for impact fee money. The 5th Street one is when they're growth related, you can use impact fee money to help pay for those. And so that's one thing to consider is the 5th Street capacity issue is created by a growth related issue, right? You're having growth in that area of town. So that project would be eligible to use impact fee monies. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, thanks.
Can I finish with a fun story? So I forgot to send this picture to myself, but Shannon sent me a great picture last week. I think kind of exemplifies what we're dealing with. It was a residence in Eastern Livingston. P and Callender, that we were assisting them to hook into the city sewer system. So this is a house that's in the city for 100 years that was just getting connected to the sewer system. And when they removed their current septic system, it was basically boards. It was 2 boards in a cesspool. So there was no leach field. There was no true septic tank. It was just wood, 100-year-old wood in the ground. That was the septic system. So there's a fun story on why it's important and some of the stuff we're dealing with. And these are, you would think that was a one-off, but you would be surprised how many septic systems there still are in the city that we are attempting to try and continually get hooked up to the system just for the environmental impact. So fun story.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, you guys.
So if I might just have one last minute, if that's all right, Madam Chair. I just want to thank Keith and his team. 6 years ago I started, we had one master plan that was for parks and trails, which has been a huge asset. But in 6 years, we've been able to cover all of our essential infrastructure. They play a huge role in getting accurate impact fees established, growth policies, things of that nature. So I think we got a great value. This was a $35,000 document that we received a $15,000 TSEP grant through. So very happy about that. As far as the I&I, it's no stranger. We've been aware of it for quite some time. And I want to give my team kudos. We have 3 smart covers located around town. We're the first municipality in Montana to actually have 24-hour, 7-day-a-week monitoring equipment out in our sewer collection system, collecting data for this formal I&I study. It's been very helpful. So if you look in your approved budget that you did here a couple months ago, we do have $75,000 budgeted for an I&I study. We have about $18,000 budgeted for a Hawk flow meter and a data logger that when we have our next developer come in, we can actually mount that equipment like we did with Northtown at this 5th and 8th Street location and monitor what the real-time flows are and take their design report. And based on the number of lots and number of people living in each residence, we can truly understand what the flow ramifications are for these developments. So we're we're heading in the right direction. It's just taken a little while to get there, but we have a lot of exciting things to come as far as our sewer collection system is in here in the next year or so.
Thank you.
And if you decide to do some more reading on the PER and you have any questions, feel free to call us.
All right. Thank you, Keith. All right. Do we have any public comment on resolution number 4883?
Patricia Grabo, 204 East Calendar Street. First, I'd like to make a slight correction on what was said. Having attended city commission meetings for the last 20 years, having been on the city commission, having watched what's happened in terms of our streets and sewer systems, I want to say that there was a huge push about 15, 16 years ago. And we had, and I think Quentin will remember this, we had gravel streets on the east side of town. We had poor collection, poor water sewer drainage. And Clint Tinsley was our public works director. And I really commend him because huge numbers of miles, literally miles of streets were improved during that period of time. We put off the downtown as the last part of this, but it was a wonderful effort by this city. So I would correct that because there's been a massive amount of effort put into this. I want to say one more time that I don't think we are subject to Bozeman in any way. And my hope is that we are not. My hope is that we develop a growth policy, not based upon strategic plan, but really on the vision of the people of this town. I hope we create
Patricia,
a growth policy.
Do you have something, a comment on the engineering report?
Yes,
Because that's our
yes,
focus,
because,
but
okay,
we're
let me
not
get to
talking
that.
growth policy. We're talking engineering
Yeah,
report.
I know, but you are planning for growth in this engineering report. And I would like the growth policy to I think we need to hold back until we figure out where people want to grow and how they want this. This is a preliminary engineering report. I know that that can be flexible, but I would want the growth policy entirely finished before we move forward with this. And the other thing that this does not take into consideration is the huge amount of work we did on the Watson subdivision. So it's not included there either. So if in the growth policy we decide to move towards the Watson subdivision or we decide to move north, that will be up to this community. We want economic health. We want this economy to support this entire process, not Bozeman. I want to ignore Bozeman, frankly. Thank you.
Right. Any other public comment on resolution number 4883?
Yes, I have a question regarding the water main that was on Park Street. I believe it was between 7th and 11th Street. The Park Street was dug up. What was the diameter of the pipe increased when the water mains were being worked on?
Can we get the map back up to?
Well, that's sewer. That's sewer.
Oh,
Well,
the
I don't know.
water.
All I just
I
know
thought you
is
said
it was
sewer.
just sort of like a landmine trying to navigate
Okay.
Park Street.
So we need to focus on this.
Well,
This resolution
isn't this
is resolution number
isn't this in the
Fo-
resolution for we
for
were talking
this.
about
This
the
is
mains?
sewer.
Well, I
We're
thought
not talking. You asked about water,
well,
so we need to focus
Can
on
you tell
the
me the difference
engineering
between
report.
water and sewer? I mean, I think we're sort of talking. You're trying to separate an atom, Madam Chairman.
We're talking about the system, the sewer system, not the water system. We're
Well-
talking about the treatment of water that comes through the sewer system. We're not talking about water mains.
So Are you saying that my question is out of line asking about the increase in the water main that was worked on, or if it wasn't a water main, or if it was a sewer main? Let's just say it was a sewer main. I don't know what it was. All I just know is that traffic was uh, a snarl zone
Okay.
on there,
Yes.
and I
So
just would
your
like to know
question
what-
was, is it out
if
of
there were
line?
any improvements?
Yes,
what
it
were
is out
they?
of line.
What were the improvements?
Your question's out of line because we're talking about something different. All right. Any other public comment on resolution 4883? All right. Commissioners, any last comments? Do we have a motion on resolution number 4883?
I move we accept resolution 4883.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Maybe and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please. Yes.
Or?
4. Motion passes. Next resolution, we have resolution number 4884, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign and execute the professional services agreement with Burton Planning Services for the city's growth policy update. Mr. Cardus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a great development. We've talked about in the past, I gave you updates on the selection committee. Burton Planning Services was the firm that the selection committee chose and was approved. Once we approved that, then we started negotiations with them on the cost of the contract. While the contract starts on page 51, those are mostly standard boilerplate recitals for professional services agreement. But if you start on page 60, Burton provided some of their specific public participation plans and their staff availability. And then I think the most telling product on this one, so you can see how this is kind of going to flow, is page 62, which outlines their project timeline and the steps they're going to take. So you can see that we actually, if approved tonight, Burton could start on 15 October. If you look through the steps, there's the project initiation and management. Those are just some of the administrative things they're going to do. They're the needs assessment. That's probably the most important part of this. As they go through the needs assessment, they're going to review the current growth policy. They're going to collect other base information. They'll establish their goals and objectives for the growth policy during that time. They'll analyze the base information. Base information are things like the strategic plan, the PER, the transportation plan, the North Side transportation study, the current impact fee study that's ongoing. All those are base information that will be provided for them to review. They'll look for project 10s and identify needs. Once they've completed that, that's their assessment of where we need to go with the growth policy. Then they'll actually start working on the growth policy update. So the needs assessment is first, and that sets the baseline, and that's where they're going to determine their goals and objectives, how they're going to write it in. And then the actual update will take place, and you can see that's starting sometime in February or March. They'll create the implementation plan, their strategies, and other inclusions, and then they have some time set aside for review and adoption by both the public and the commission. And then I'd like to point out there that timeline for Project 5 or Task 5, public involvement, starts on day 1 and goes through the end. And you can see some of the specifics of their public participation plan on pages 60 and 61. And then the final exhibit there on page 63 is I guess it's the takeaway is that we negotiated a full contract price for them for a completion of the growth policy for $74,795. So it comes in under the $80,000 we budgeted, which means that we are fully funded for the growth policy at this time.
All right. Do we have any public comment on resolution number 4884?
Patricia Grable, in line with my initial public comment, is there any way that we can take the strategic plan out of the work with Burton? I need to ask the city manager that. It's not a legitimate.
I will
item to
answer it.
include.
It was created with public input. It was created with city input, commissioner input, public input. It was and accepted by the commission. So it is part of our many plans, our master plans, from our Parks and Trails master plan to that and everything in between. And so no, we're not taking it out.
Okay, my comment is that those who are experts in growth policy simply say strategic plan should not be any part of a growth policy. And I'm just making
It's like
that.
one of 100 pieces.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The other part of that 100 pieces should be an overpass. And when we did the strategic plan, we said we might consider an overpass as well as an underpass. So I would like to be sure that that gets included as a comment at least, or in some sort of form, if it's at all possible.
Well, when there's public input, I'm positive, Patricia, you will be involved
You
in
think so?
partying with the
I'm so shy.
participating with the Burton planning.
All right,
So
well, thank you. And that's my input. Thank you.
thank you. Any other public comment? All right, commissioners, questions, comments? Go ahead, Warren.
I'd just like to thank the Park County Community Foundation for, I believe, bringing in $60,000 approximately to fund the growth policy that made it possible to move forward. Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. Anyone else?
I feel like we should be having cake because this
Waiting
has
for
been
someone to
like
say that because I'm all like excited.
this has
up
been like
here.
a long day coming, right? I think that the community has been asking for this for so long, and we like it should be noted like what a big deal this is that we actually get something to vote on, like an updated growth policy that has this massive bar showing public involvement at every single step of the process, starting on day one, which is what everybody wants, at least everybody that's talked about the growth policy that I've heard. It seems anticlimactic, but it's actually a really big deal. And it took a lot of people to get us here, so I agree. We have lots of people to thank, many people who are probably not, there's not enough time to mention all the people. So thank you, all of the people. It's a big deal.
Well, I agree. I feel extremely excited to just see this tonight. And as well as if you think way back, when I first started as a commissioner, I was on the planning board for the first 3 years. And for the first 2 years, all we did is work on the growth policy as a small little entity trying to create it. It was a lot of work. Think of what this looks like in work. And there were about how many people? 7 with, 5 to 7, depending on attendance. And that they worked hard to try to make right on updating the growth policy, and it was almost an impossible task. And they're one of the reasons that we moved forward in working towards a different solution. So I recall Mark Rader is one of the people who he worked so hard at it, and this is so exciting for us to finally be here. But I've been on the commission for almost 6 years. So showing this, how long it's taken and long time coming. Very exciting. Anyone else? Warren?
Yeah, I would like to, I mentioned the Park County Citizens Foundation. I'd like to mention one person there at the time before his well-deserved retirement, and that was Peter Fox, who was a main force behind getting the $60,000 that made this possible. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Do we have a motion from the commission on resolution number 4884?
I make a motion, we pass 4884.
I'll second. I had to take one, especially this one. All right,
You.
thank you. Oh, then it's my turn again. I have to talk again. We have a motion by Schwartz and a
No,
second by
by Friedman.
by Friedman and a second by Hoagland. Roll call, please. Yes.
Yeah, 4. 4.
Or
4.
Motion passes. Tonight, we have 2 action items. Our first action item is scheduling October Commissioner listening session. Mr. Cardus and or Quentin. Quentin?
I'm thinking. Anybody feel like doing it this month with me at the Food Resource Center?
Where you going? What, when?
Saturday. I gotta look at a calendar. Oh, wait, got one right there.
I turned my phone off because it was making noise. Yes.
Oh, well, yeah, what time is that at?
Noon.
Oh, yeah, well, we're talking 8:30 to 9:30. Depending on if the room is available at the Food Resource Center. Or if somebody has another suggestion.
Well, one thing that we have talked about previously, and I'd like us to think ahead on, is we, moved it to the farmer's market as we said, bring it to the people
Right.
versus the people coming to us. And so to a place that a lot of people congregate. And so I'm wondering in time, and I'm not saying this next one, but thinking ahead on moving it to maybe another location so that there's access, something more casual, maybe coffee shop on one time. And then
Right.
we love the Food Resource Center and they're always so accommodating, but also bringing it to the people in other ways as well.
Right.
So just something to think about in the future.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hours are at the library or how that would work.
Yeah, the
I
library.
Thought about that. I'll check with Mitch on that.
So really the 26th, the 19th, I'm not available, but
I was
that-
looking at the 12th.
that's the O Street connector.
Yeah, that's at noon, but I'm looking at
Oh.
8:30 to 10, an hour and a half, no more. Got to put an end time, so. But that's
Alright.
what we'll do Saturday.
Faith, could we put it on the website? You know how we have maybe a little sign that tells us something like when we had the route changes? I think I was looking at that
I'll see
recently. The
that no one
public
gets it in the briefs.
works. So yeah, getting it on
Thanks,
the
buddy.
on that. And maybe
And then, yeah,
just
let's start
like an
thinking about it.
announcement somewhere as well. Okay. Thank
Cool.
you. And O Street, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, streets
I
on
like
it.
the little announcements that we can go right to, like the Public Works had an announcement on the residential garbage change, for example.
That go into effect yet? Oh, this week.
Yesterday. All right. Okay, so it's set.
So
Okay, moving on. Next action item is to discuss, approve, deny approving Livingston's Conservation Board final draft bylaws. Mr. Carduce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you guys looked over this last meeting. We had some edits. We've included those edits. So just to point out a couple, we added in Article 1, Section 2, we added energy saving initiatives down there on the bottom. And then in Article 4, Section 1, we changed the age to 15 to 19. And then in Section 2, we changed the term for the youth seat to July to June and a 1-year term, so that lines up with the school year. And I think I did change some of the language in Section 4 under whether or not the board wants to elect a secretary. So that's left as an option to the board. They may choose to elect a secretary if they want. If they don't, then those responsibilities stay with the chair.
Any public comment on action item B? Any commissioner comments or questions?
I know students at Park High are excited about it. I did talk to their club at the last farmer's market. They were there and they already have the student they want to be on it. So,
They did.
so I'm excited about this, looking forward to it. But as far as I looked at the changes, everything looked good to me.
Anything else?
I just have a question. So I know so Comron's position, the energy intern, he's being replaced, obviously. It was a 1-year position and now somebody else is coming in or will be. Is that right?
The intent is for someone to come in. Did she finally?
And
There's been some.
Alexis is gonna, I apologize, Mike. Alexis is gonna accept a 6-month term.
so it doesn't explicitly state the energy intern would be coming to the conservation board, but would the energy intern be coming to the conservation board meetings?
I assume they would. Obviously, they're all public meetings, so that would be a logical person to go. We didn't include it in the bylaws because they're not a member of the board, but I would assume they would attend based on availability. That's really going to be how many hours they have available and if they're charging it against.
Yeah.
And just because I was on the Parks Frady, Jim Berg, Nicole, and I all certainly mentioned this board and the understanding that we'd getting the bylaws figured out. And I think that Alexis will certainly attend these meetings.
That'd be great. I think it'd be great, like especially
Starting it up. Yeah.
well, it's starting off. I mean, of course, whenever there's an energy intern, like, it's to our advantage to get as much information as we can. But also as this is taking off, helping keep it on the right track, because COM was such a great resource for this new idea that's not new in other places, but new here. Thank you.
I also have to say this, I find this, just the board itself, this new board, very exciting as well. I think that it is innovative and showing that we're thinking conservationally as well as economically and trying to save money for our community as well as save the earth of our community. So I like it. And I'm another exciting thing on the agenda tonight. Anything else?
Did you open for public comment? I think you did.
I did.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion from the commission on action item B?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve action item B.
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please. Yes?
4?
4.
4.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is city manager comments.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We're well under 2 hours, so I can actually give you a little more information tonight. Just to follow up on the Conservation Board, now that that is approved, the bylaws are approved, in the next couple of weeks, we'll go out for applications. We'll probably leave that open for at least 30 days. The intent will be to get a series of applications, present them to you at a meeting for you to assign the new board, and then we would get them actually up and running in the month of January. So that's a nice clean start time because that's the annual start time for all boards is in January, so they can do their elections and actually get started at that point. So we have a little bit of time. We're out ahead of it, which is great. But expect to see those probably our first meeting in December, hopefully. So that is that update. Hopefully you've seen the progress on the replacement of the water main along Park. That's going really well. The slip lining is fascinating. If you get a chance to go out and watch it, you should. It's kind of amazing. So that'll continue. What's their projected end date on that one, Shannon? Do you know?
With the pipe bursting itself, they have another 3 to 4 days of that work, and then they'll go in and connect all the mains in 10th, 7th, 8th, and 6th. So we're hoping by the end of October if the weather stays.
Right. So maybe a little later than that. So three to 4 days of pipe bursting, and then the rest of the connections to finish in by October. So that's doing great. If you haven't had a chance to look at the O Street Trail Connector, which we will get a better name for at some point, it's amazing. It's a great feature out there. It looks great. It's going to be an awesome way for people to get back and forth to the bridge. And it's really well separated from the highway. It's much safer than it was previously. So mark that on your calendar for the grand opening on the 12th. That's great. Also, we've been updating the city film permit. We're actually requested by the chamber to get rid of it altogether. And we've said that that really was in place for the businesses anyway. So if the chamber's request is to get rid of it, the city will do away with the film permit altogether. There will still need to be applications if film crews were going to close streets or sidewalks. They'll have to go through the standard permitting process, which already exists out there for construction, for anything else where streets are closed. So they'll go through those processes. If there's problems with filming, if they're breaking city ordinances, then we'll address that as a violation of city ordinances. Otherwise, the city won't be involved in the day-to-day filming process or monitoring the film crews as they go forward. So that will take a place 15 October. We'll switch over to the new system, which is not a system, but just our basic system of street closures. Finally, I will be out the rest of the week. It's Montana League of Cities and Towns time, so I will be spending some time in Billings with the other city managers, and some of the presentations out there should be great. If you need somebody in the meantime, you can contact Lisa Lowy, although I should be available via email or text because I'll just be sitting in meetings most of the time. So if you need something specific, feel free to reach out, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can. That is all I have.
Thank you, Michael. Commissioner comments. Melissa.
No, I'm just really excited about the growth policy starting like the 15th, I guess. And it'll be really great to hear what people in Livingston want. And Michael, I hope you tell us what exciting things you learn at the League of Cities and Towns, or Towns and Cities, whatever the league meetings in Billings. But yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you. Warren.
I would just like to say that I'm really very happy the way everything seems to be going in terms of flow of progress. No pun intended towards the sewer and water system. Thank you.
Bill.
Well-rounded program tonight. We're fixing old stuff. We're finally getting a growth meeting. And we're establishing another board to get more people involved in our local government. And good evening. I thank Mike for putting a program together.
Quentin?
I have nothing.
Nothing. I have one thing that you already brought up, Michael, and that's the O Street Connector. Um, I am also very excited about that project. A lot of good things happening this week. And just a little, we were going out to the shelter. And as we were driving out, one of our daughters was with, and I was like, check out the new trail. And she's like, wow. That's all she said. She's like, wow. And it is very well designed, which is, well, other than, I haven't been on it yet, but it looks beautiful. And I love how it goes through and utilize the space itself, as well as yet being thoughtful of businesses and safety. It just is really well designed. Exciting, very exciting. And then I have a question comment, I guess. So when it comes to public involvement, so our initial like 10-15, what's it look like for public meetings starting that we know of so far? Is that, because I want to make sure that if we as commissioners need to have more than 2 of us.
It shouldn't be, we shouldn't have public meetings immediately.
No,
They're going to have to take some time to go through all the documents that we're providing them, which is a lot. So that'll be initially. I am working right now on just a list of stakeholders to send to them, just interested parties in the community that they can contact. So they can not only do public meetings, but they can do smaller focus groups if they want. So that'll probably be the initial public participation will just be defining some people they can reach out to, and then they should provide us with a schedule probably a few weeks into it of what they're looking at for public meetings. My guess is the communications firm, which is out of Whitefish, will come down and we'll have some conversations about what that looks like and how it'll move forward from there.
so like a couple months maybe of that initial start before public meetings are scheduled.
It may be within, I would hope maybe by December sometime, we will start some of the public meetings. I don't know if that'll be the large group public meetings or some of the smaller focus groups. It's just going to depend on what order they want to do their outreach in, and kind of probably in what responses they get when they reach out to different entities and different groups.
Well, thank you. That's all I have tonight. Can I entertain a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
We have all in favor? Sorry.
Aye.
All right.
This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is adjourned at 7, what do we have? 7:03. I said I was going to.